Hello friends, a warm welcome from Aussizz Group PTE-Tutorials.com. My name is Malcolm and I'm your PTE coach. And the purpose of today's live session is to give an overview and a complete idea on two main tasks in PTE. The first task which I'm going to cover today is called Retell Lecture. It's generally the fourth task in the speaking module in PTE. And the other task which I'm going to cover is called Summarise Spoken Text. It is the first task in the listening module in PTE. So first thing is that most of you or many of you would have taken PTE in the past as well, and you would know that these two are very similar tasks. The name itself says Retell a Lecture and the other name says Summarize the Spoken Text. So in obviously both these parts we have audio which play, and sometimes instead of an audio lecture we can also get a video lecture in the actual exam. Now be careful friends, whenever a video comes in the actual exam, many times I've seen that the quality of the video is not that good. It's quite blurry and sometimes it's very difficult to understand what's going on in the video. So first honest advice is, in case if you get a video instead of an audio lecture, kindly ignore the visual part. Just focus on the audio part more, because the name of the task is Retell Lecture and Summarize the Spoken Text, which means the visual content doesn't matter that much. And Asita Fernando is saying hi Malcolm, so I'm also saying hi Asita, nice to see you over here in the live video. Thank you for being here. Well, now going forward with this task called Retell Lecture. Now generally there is an audio track in Retell Lecture which is approximately somewhere around 30 seconds to 90 seconds in duration. And obviously since it's a bit lengthy sometimes, it's difficult to retain all the information, so obviously we need to take quickly as many notes as we can. And to take notes we get laminated sheets of plastic and we get a pen like a sketch pen or a marker pen which we need to take notes with. Now sometimes I've seen in the actual exam that the pen also stops working, unfortunately, depending from test center to test center. So if your pen stops working, then God save you. Maybe you have some other pen with you which can work. Some centers give two pens, some centers unfortunately give just one pen. So it depends. At least in Summarize Spoken Text, we have the prompt where we can type in front of us. So as a backup, even if the pen stops, kindly start typing immediately. And yes, in Retell Lecture, just raise your hand. Hopefully you'll get a new pen soon. And Monzurul Ripon is saying, hi sir, how are you? I'm fine sir, thank you for joining the video. Glad you are back again in this live session with me. Well, now coming to the main thing in Retell Lecture, sometimes the audio is very lengthy, sometimes the audio is short. So what is better, a short audio or a lengthy audio? What do you think? Well, honestly, I think that a lengthy audio is always better than a short audio, because with a short audio, the risk is that sometimes the audio is a bit too short and we don't have enough content or words from the audio which we can note down. And purposely, sometimes the audio has a lot of disturbance, and purposely the speaker also makes sounds like just to kill the pace of the audio and just so as to distract you. If you have a lengthy audio, definitely we can take more notes, and definitely it helps in speaking also. Now, since the name of the task is Retell Lecture, to retell a lecture, first we need to listen to the lecture and then we retell the lecture. So obviously we get points in listening and speaking, both the modules. So what we speak is going to give us points for content, and content always gives us a score in listening. And the way we speak it, which means how we speak, is going to get us points in speaking. And how we speak mainly mean fluency and pronunciation both. The meaning of fluency is that we need to be extremely fluent the way native speakers are. And the meaning of the word pronunciation means the sounds of the words need to be as clear as they can be. Now, generally I've seen that people do suffer in this task because they struggle in taking notes quickly. And honestly and frankly, there is no substitute to quick note taking and good note taking. Now, there are multiple ways we can take notes. Best way of note taking is always note vertically from top to bottom. Never take notes horizontally. If you take notes like this from top to bottom, generally it stays more in the brain up here. Secondly, we can also use flowcharts and symbols when we take notes. It's always recommended to use flowcharts and symbols. They generally help in data or content retention in our brain. And thirdly, Many times people ask me that what is better, Malcolm? Should we just note down the words from the audio, or should we try to note down the whole phrases or sentences? Now the thing is, if we try to note down the phrases, it can be a bit tricky because they can be very lengthy sometimes. And the problem with just noting the words or the keywords is that sometimes we might note many keywords, but then we might not remember the context in which they were spoken in the audio. So what I would suggest is always note down words in chunks, like group of 3 words, 3 words, 3 words, 3 words, 3 words, 3 words, something like that, 3, 4 words, 3, 4 words, 3, 4 words, and try to, use symbols, flow charts. It stays more in the brain, as I said. Thirdly, many times people say, like, what should we do? Because if we just note down words, we are not able to form sentences out of those words. So the biggest problem generally which people face is sentence formation. Now friends, remember one thing, that sentence formation is good, but it's not absolutely necessary to speak everything in correct English, which means that grammar is not that vital in Retell Lecture. Why? Because for speaking score, the thing which matters is fluency and pronunciation. And for the content or the listening score, the thing which matters is keywords or the main words from the audio. So frankly, let's say I have just 3 names, Adam, Steve, and John in the audio. I don't know what they are doing, but still if I say the names clearly, like Adam, John, and Smith, something like that, still it's good for the content. So no need to be worried about the grammar much in this task. It's not weighted that heavily in this task, honestly speaking. Just mainly focus on the words. More and more words you get, it's always better. Many times people also ask me, if we are quick at noting, is it advisable to keep the words exactly same as the audio? So yes, why not? Because the name of the task is Retell Lecture, and to retell a lecture, what better than keeping the words same from the audio? So definitely if the words from the audio remain same, I don't think the software or the PTE test creators have any problem with that, because we just have to retell the lecture. Now the instruction clearly says that we need to retell it in our own words, but still I think it's all right even if we use the same words as the audio, because at the end of the day, that is content, and the software will grade you well if you use the words from the audio, definitely. Now many times people ask, which words are important from the audio? Now first things first, most important words are obviously the words which are repetitive or highly repeated in the audio number of times. Because the simple thing is, why will PT repeat words? Obviously because they are important. What should we do? We should make PT happy. How will PT be happy? If you use the same words obviously which are repeated, which means they are important, obviously the software also grades us highly. So that's the first thing. Always note down and use the repeated words from the audio. Excuse me. Secondly, if you want a high score in content, always include the proper nouns from the audio as well. Proper nouns means names of people, places, and things. If those words or names like John, like Amory Lovins, Mr. Green, for example, let's say these are words. It's a word, let's say it's a passage or audio on Confederation of Industries in Australia. If you use these words, Confederation of Industries in Australia clearly, then obviously you get a good score in content, and that's what matters eventually. Coming to the next thing, if we can improve the score in vocabulary also, that would be an added bonus. So definitely the name of the test is PT Academic. So the type of words which actually help are academic keywords. Now the question is, which words can we call academic keywords? So generally there are words like, it is apparent that, it is evident that, it is suggested from the lecture that, the speaker is delineating, means explaining. Now if you use such words, be careful that you are clear. Don't be unclear and don't force these words, okay? If you're clear and if you're comfortable, then use them. Otherwise, don't use them. You can also say, the speaker is talking about. Moreover, the speaker added. Furthermore, the speaker mentioned about. In addition to the above, the lecture shed light on. Just be clear and concise in what you are saying, all right? Don't force words ever. Fourthly, never try to add your own content in the audio. Try to keep it concise. And as I said, best way of getting a full score in Retell Lecture is only one solution, and that's quick noting. The more you note, the more you say. The more words you say from the audio, the better score you get. It's very simple. Now one more thing, one question is there from Amarjeet. Hi Amarjeet, thanks for asking the question. He's asking, My biggest problem in PT has become the listening section. What can you recommend in which section to do? And I'm lacking in what? Thanks in advance. I'll cover that also, Amarjit. Thanks for asking. Just be patient. I'll cover everything. Okay. Now coming back to Retell Lecture. The time we are supposed to speak maximum is 40 seconds. And minimum time we should speak is at least 25 seconds. That is my recommendation. And common sense says that if we can cover more content from the audio, we can speak more. So the more you speak, the better. So many times people ask me that, is it okay if I speak for 30 seconds? So I say, yeah, it's okay, but it's not the best. So the best thing in Retell Lecture, according to me, is try to speak for the full length of 40 seconds. That is the full prompt. Try to utilize the full time. Now, next thing is many times people memorize templates in Retell Lecture. And some example, I've heard people saying like, overall, the lecture is very informative and it substantiates the facts and figures spoken on in the lecture, and it also sheds light on all the important points in the lecture. Now, if I speak something so lengthy, which is obviously a pile of rubbish, it doesn't help me in my content score at all. And frankly speaking, I am just wasting time, precious time I'm wasting. Instead of that, it's much better if I can use some simple terminology, simple English, like the speaker also mentioned about numbers like 30, 40, and 50 in the lecture. He also spoke about the scholarship program in America. For example, I'm just saying examples. So just try to not use many templates which are very lengthy. If you're using templates, use them, but see that you speak clearly. Also, another problem with templates is that sometimes people become very fast when they use templates. Subconsciously it happens because people don't understand the speed they are talking at. They become very fast, and because of disturbance in the lecture, the test center, it becomes sometimes even more distracting. So don't worry about what people are sitting next to you or speaking next to you, because sometimes it becomes like a fish market. If the person next to me starts speaking loudly and fast, I also tend to do that. Means people also tend to do that in the actual exam. So desist from all those things and just focus on the screen in front of you. Just focus on what you are saying, listen and speak clearly. And again, I'm saying try to speak for 35 or 40 seconds. That is the full length in Retell Lecture. One more important thing is that in Retell Lecture, we get just 3 seconds before the audio starts. And after describe image, this task of Retell Lecture comes immediately. So be prepared after 5 or 6 questions in describe image that the next question is going to be Retell Lecture. So at least keep your pen handy so that you can start taking notes immediately. And obviously in Retell Lecture, we can get images along with the audio. And sometimes people think that it's still describe image. People get confused. People can't make out that Retell Lecture has started. So mentally be prepared that after 5 or 6 questions of describe image, it is going to be Retell Lecture. So start taking notes immediately, all right? Okay. Now Kishore Podal is asking, hi Malcolm, can we speak list of keywords which we have noted? Yes, Kishore, that's what I was saying. Sometimes, as I said, it doesn't matter much about the grammar we are using, so we can just read out the words also. For example, the speaker is talking about, you can just read out 6 to 10 words which you have written. Many times we think that it sounds a bit odd, because if we just read out the words, it won't make grammatical sense. But as I already said, grammar is not that important in this task. It is important, but not that important. So I'm not suggesting that we just read the words. But if we are not able to frame sentences, the biggest problem is that we fumble. And if we fumble, then obviously things like the speaker is talking about America. Also, the speaker is talking about Russia. Now, if these things like these are called like, sort of unnatural or inapt pauses, they are actually considered to be natural by native speakers. But unfortunately, if they happen many times in the exam, then the software thinks that you're not fluent enough. So it's always risky if this thing like keeps on happening. So I would not recommend reading the words, but yes, if you can't frame the sentences, then definitely you can just read them out as well. That's going to be okay. You're still going to get a perfect score in speaking and listening. All right, David is asking, hi sir, what is a template? I heard that a lot. They always said, don't use template. If you could explain, that would be great. David, a template means something like this. The speaker is talking about blah, blah, blah. Moreover, the speaker also mentioned about blah, blah, blah. Furthermore, the speaker also said, it is clear from the lecture that, in addition to the above, we can say that, overall it can be concluded from the lecture that. Template means set of words which people memorize and people use those words in the actual answer for every question they have. So what people also do is people also note down a template on the sheets before the test starts, and when the actual audio comes, they just note down the words and then they just read the template as if it's a story. So yes, sometimes a template can help you for getting a high score in fluency, because if we use a template, we won't fumble. But as I'm saying, a template should never be at the cost of content, because if content is not there, what will we get in listening? Obviously, listening score comes from the words, from the content, from the phrases. So that's what a template is. All right. Nitesh is asking, is it necessary to conclude in Retell Lecture like DI, like describe image? So Nitesh, nothing is compulsory, nothing is mandatory, but yes, it's recommended. And for a conclusion, you just need a keyword, like overall. Lastly, finally, the speaker said. To conclude, it can be said that the lecture ended by saying, or the lecturer ended the lecture by saying. Just that keyword is enough, to sort of trigger the software. The software also understands that the test taker is now shifting to the conclusion. He's almost done with the main content. So just try to say that word, overall, lastly, finally, to conclude, somewhere around the 30-35 second mark. After that, you can say whatever you wish to say. It doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter much. Okay, Sergio is asking, is it useful to talk about the image, or is it better if you just focus on the content in the audio? So I would recommend focus only on the content in the audio. The image is more or less like a distraction. Yeah, it is there to support the audio, but still it's more or less like the software is checking what you are saying. Are you following the image content, or are you following the audio content? And it's much better to follow the audio content, as you can obviously realize. So I would recommend ignore the image content. If you have nothing to say, only then use it as a last resort. Otherwise, I would say don't use it. And as I said, even if you get a video, ignore the visual content. Just focus on the content of the audio. That is the main thing. That's why it's called Retell Lecture, the audio lecture. All right. Sri Konda Aparna is asking, hi Malcolm sir, can we use template for 79 plus? Can, ma'am, you can use a template, but I would not recommend using a template in any task in PTE. For life, in life, everything, yeah, we can do things, we can't do things, but it's always advisable if we do it the right way, and the right way is not using a template, so that's much better according to me. But if you have no other better solution, then yeah, definitely use a template as well. All right, so that's mainly about Retell Lecture. Just let me check if we have other questions on Retell Lecture. Then I'll go on to the next topic of Summarise Spoken Text. Just let me check quickly. In Retell Lecture, if I speak a list of 30 keywords, is it good for both speaking and listening score? But sir, if you just speak 30 words, you will finish the answer very quickly, which means maybe less than 25 seconds. So definitely you need to say something else also. So I would recommend try to note even more words. But the thing is, generally 5 or 6 sentences would be enough to cover a duration of around 35 seconds. Maybe 7 sentences would be enough, would be tops to speak for a length of 40 seconds. So try to speak around 7 sentences. Should be enough in Retell Lecture for 40 seconds. All right. And thank you, David. Even I enjoyed explaining it. Thank you for asking it. All right. Now let me go to the next task, which is Summarize Spoken Text. It is the first task in the listening module, and we get either 2 questions or 3 questions for Summarize Spoken Text. It's always minimum 2, maximum 3. Now in Summarize Spoken Text, the instruction says that you will hear a short lecture. You are supposed to write a summary of about 50 to 70 words. Now remember, minimum is 50, maximum is 70 words. If you write 1 word less than 50 or even 1 word more than 70, immediately there is a penalty. And as per the PTE guideline, the penalty is 1 point in writing and listening. That's what the guideline says, but I think the penalty is more than 1 point. So if you want to be safe, kindly finish it by 70 words. Now, in Summarize Spoken Text, try to write at least 60 or 65 words. That is my suggestion. Don't be lazy. Don't be satisfied with 50 words. Try to write more words, because again, what we write is a content score, and content obviously depends on the keywords from the lecture, and how we write is the writing score. How we write means we need to be careful about the parameters of writing. So there are 4 main parameters of writing. First is spelling, second is grammar, third is vocabulary, and fourth is called written discourse. Now out of these 4, most important is spelling, because if you make mistakes of spelling, the software will penalize you heavily. Mark my words, heavily means heavily. Every single mistake is going to take you much more away from 79 than you can even imagine. So my best or honest suggestion is, if we are not sure with the spelling in Summarise Spoken Text, don't write that word. Just write a similar word. That's the best we can do. Because if we don't match the correct spelling, then obviously it's a spelling mistake, which means the writing score is impacted, and obviously even the content won't match with the word in the database of the software. For example, if the word is, let's say the word is Amory Lovins. Now the spelling of Amory Lovins is A-M-O-R-Y-L-O-V-I-N-S. And by mistake I write, let's say, Emery Lawrence. Let's say I have a problem with my listening skills. I hear Emery Lovins. I write E-M-O-R-Y-L-A-W-R-E-N-C-E. Now the actual word was Amory Lovins, and I wrote Emery Lawrence. So obviously it's going to finish my score in writing and listening both, because it means that I have a problem in listening and writing both the skills. So again, I'm saying, if you are not sure, kindly desist from writing words where we are not sure with the spelling. Don't write such words. Now, as I said, try to write around 65 to 70 words. Preferred length should be 65 to 70 words in Summarise Spoken Text. And that would be approximately either 3 or 4 or 5 sentences. So maybe minimum around 3 sentences. Maximum could be 4 to 5 sentences. 2 would be too few. 6 would be too many. Now, one more very important thing about spelling in this task is that as per the PTE guideline, we have to stick to only one type of English in one task. Type of English means the convention of English, which means either British English or American English. For example, if you write a word like organization with S and globalization with Z, then obviously you are breaking the rule or the guideline which PTE has laid out. So basically follow only one, either British or American in one task. If you mix the two, the score of spelling will go down guaranteed. So kindly be a bit careful, only follow one. Now, I've got 1 or 2 questions. Kiruti is asking, in Retell Lecture, can we use template in order to get 65 plus? Yes, ma'am. For 65 plus, definitely you can use a template. There is no problem with the template. But as I said, my personal suggestion is don't use templates. Try to speak naturally in flow. It's not at all difficult. The only thing is quick noting. All right. Thank you. Kishore is asking, can we copy 4 sentences exactly from the lecture and Summarise Spoken Text? Yes, you can. If you are quick at noting, you can also copy paste 4 sentences exactly from the lecture, but obviously then you need to be really quick. And the problem with exact copy pasting is that if you force it or some word doesn't fit that well, and if the meaning of the answer changes, then it could be problematic. But at the end of the day, it's a game of words. So yeah, main thing is pick up the words, as many words as you can from the audio, if you understand what I'm saying. Thank you. Nitesh is also asking another question. Can we use the same words from the lecture in our summary, or do we need to use high-fi vocab and synonymous words? Frankly, sir, you can use the same words from the lecture, but as I said, vocabulary always depends on academic vocabulary which we use, not fancy vocabulary. Try to understand what I'm saying. We don't need fancy words, we need academic keywords. Academic keywords mean words like, it is apparent that, it is evident that, it is implied from the lecture that, it is suggested that. Now such words are called academic keywords, but the problem is if we use a lot of sentences like these, then obviously it becomes a template again. Means where will you fit the content? So use such words for vocabulary. You don't need fancy words or fancy synonyms. But yes, few words here and there, definitely you can change them. But at the same time, please be very careful that if you don't pick up the main words from the audio and use synonyms for the main words, again, it's going to be a problem, because at the end of the day, it's a software. If the software doesn't find the main words from the audio in the answer, it might think that the content is missing. Something is problematic with the answer. So don't experiment too much in paraphrasing also. If you are good at paraphrasing, paraphrase. Otherwise, try to resist it. Okay? Thank you. Shri Konda Aparna is asking, Dear Malcolm sir, what is written disclosure? So ma'am, firstly, let me correct you. It's called written discourse. It's not called disclosure. Disclosure means you need to disclose something. The word is written discourse, C-O-U-R-S-E. And discourse means the flow, the way we are doing something. So basically what oral fluency is to speaking, written discourse is to writing. It's mainly the flow. And for written discourse, generally, we use cohesive and coherent devices like words like moreover, comma, furthermore, comma. If you want to change the tone, you use a word like however, in addition, comma, nevertheless, comma. For a conclusion, you might use a connector like overall, comma, to conclude, comma, lastly, comma. So all these small words help in written discourse. They are cohesive devices. They link everything. Cohesion means flow, the links. So if you use such words, generally the score of written discourse can improve dramatically also. All right. So that's the meaning mainly of written discourse. There's also one more thing called linguistic range, or the general linguistic range. It also includes a part of vocabulary and mainly the flow and the formation of sentences. So mainly it's just the way you write rather than what you're writing. What we write is content. How we write is mainly the writing score. And the main house are spelling, grammar. These should be 100% accurate. One very important thing which I would like to add is, after every sentence, obviously, we'll put a full stop. After the full stop, please leave a space. If you forget the space after a full stop, it's considered to be a typing error, which is the worst error for your writing score. Also, every new sentence after a full stop should start with a capital letter. So please be careful. Every new sentence has to start with a capital letter, except the first word of every sentence and the personal pronoun like I, I'm, I've. Other than these words, no other word should be in capitals except or unless it's a proper noun. For example, if you're writing the word Nelson Mandela or Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi in your answer, then yes, M, K, G should be capital, N and M should be capital. But let's say if you're writing a word like university, university, university 2 or 3 times in your answer, it should not be capital. So please remember that as well. Okay, Nitesh is saying thank you. It is clear now. Thank you, Nitesh. Mansi is asking, how can we identify the main words in SST? That is Summarise Spoken Text. Good question, Mansi. Thank you for asking. Well, to identify the main words, obviously we need to understand what is going on in the lecture. And understanding means picking up mainly the repeated words, picking up mainly the theme of the lecture, and mainly there will be the use of modal verbs before important words. Now the question is, what are modal verbs? M-O-D-A-L. Modal verbs mean verbs like must, should, can, could, would, may, might, will. For example, if the sentence is, parents must take care of the children, it's something like an instruction, right? Must. So whatever follows modal verbs generally is very important. This thing will happen because of this thing, because of reason. So it's a connecting connector. So definitely always look out for words like as a result of, hence, thus, although, which means the tone changes. Words like must, would, could, should. And also look out for adjectives like the main reasons are, the major issues are, the key points are. Whatever follows such words always is important. Hope it helps, Mansi. Thank you. Chaitanya is asking, in Retell Lecture, how can we get 79 plus? Can you please give us some tips? Hi Chaitanya, nice to see you over here after a long time. Chaitanya, as I said in the earlier part of the video, the live session, I already mentioned how to get that 79 plus score. Try to jot down as many words as possible and try to include as many words from the audio in your answer. Don't add we should not add our own content because that is not helpful in the content score at all. Also, we should try not to use or limit the use of templates. Instead of that, it's much better to speak fluently in free flow. Grammar is not that important in Retell Lecture. It's the words and the phrases from the audio which can fetch us a full score in content. Thank you. Well, Nafas is asking, hi sir, if the lecture is short And if we don't find many points there, what should our strategy be? I got a small lecture in SST about sound receptors, which is a very common question in the actual exam, as you pointed out. I could not find many keywords or ideas from the lecture. Usually I don't use any structure in SST. Well, now first see, PT also gives a guideline, and the guideline is 50 to 70 words. So sometimes it's okay if we don't have enough words, even if you write 55, 60, 52, 56, 53, something like this, it's okay. But as I said, the recommended route or the recommended method is more words. So simple and honest suggestion is improve your noting speed, because everything depends on the correct way of noting. And if you can't note down the words or the phrases, more phrases, try to use symbols and flow charts. For example, if let's say there's a lecture about Paris, right? You might have come across a lecture about a person called Haussmann. He was the architect of the modern city of Paris. Now he says that there's a wall around the model city of Paris. So you can just write P on your sheet and you can just draw a circle around it. So you can think that it's a wall around the city of Paris. So try to visualize what the speaker is saying and try to use symbols. It might help you. And as you said, you're not using a structure, so that's all right. Even if you don't use a structure, that's okay. There's no need to use a structure at all. You can just write on your own, but it needs to be correct content and there should be no mistakes of writing. That's the main thing. Hope I helped. Well, Shweta is also asking a question. Do they expect correct spellings for proper nouns like names? They may be written with multiple spellings. So what to do, especially if the lecture is a biography of a person? Excellent question, Shweta. Very logical question you have asked. Now, even I would like to think that proper nouns can be written in multiple ways. For example, my spelling is M-A-L-C-O-L-M. Some people also write M-A-L-C-O-M. Now, both are correct. We can't point out, that this is correct, this is wrong. But still, I think it's a bit risky because at the end of the day, it's a software. Unfortunately, that's the only drawback in my mind for wrong spellings. So, if you check on PTE Tutorials, the app, there are many questions and some of the questions also have names of people. Actually, a lot of questions have names. So best thing is, before the exam, if you get time, just Google the actual name and write the correct name. Because then again, it's going to be a problem. For example, if a name is repeated like 5-6 times, it is obviously important. Even if you don't use it, it's risky. But if you do the wrong thing, it's even more riskier, in my opinion. That's my opinion. But still, PT might give you a benefit of doubt, so you never know. But as I'm saying, preparation never harms. So do be well prepared in advance. That is the best way forward. Thank you. Shakilur Rahman is asking that in SST, according to PTE Tutorials, it starts with like the brief and explicit summary encapsulates. Could you please frame a sentence? Yes, we can frame a sentence. The brief and explicit summary encapsulates important information about the city of Australia. The brief and explicit summary encapsulates evident details about the town called Memphis in America. Something like that. So that's what a template does. That's what a template is. You use that line and after that fit whatever you want to write. Something like that. Clear? Hope it is clear. Alex is asking some more examples of symbol. Well, let's say there is a lecture about the presidential election in America, which says that in 1992, the President of United States of America was George Washington Sr. or George Bush Sr. He was succeeded by Bill Clinton in the 96 elections and subsequently again by Bill Clinton in 2000 elections. The 2004 elections were won by Barack Obama. So if there's a lecture like this, and obviously if I write down each and everything, it can be problematic. So I can just write 1990-GB, George Bush, arrow. 1994, BC, Bill Clinton, arrow. 1998, BC, again arrow. 2000 or 2002, whatever it is, BC or BO, Barack Obama, something like that. Just using symbols, arrows and initials can also go a great deal in helping or making life easier in this task. Hope it helped. All right, thank you. Well, Tiza is also asking, how can I see previous lecture of Retell? I missed it. So ma'am, you don't need to worry. The whole lecture will be there on the same video you're watching. So after the video ends, you can again play it. Everything will be played again. You have not missed anything, so don't need to worry. All right. And somebody is answering to teaser, how can I use a template? So RV is asking, even I am wondering why sir is saying not to use. Template makes life easy and we feel more confident. At the same time, giving the content what PTE machine is looking for. Sir, I'm not saying don't use a template. My recommendation is, if you can, then avoid using it. I know it makes life easier, but you only tell me, what do you want? Do you want an easy life or do you want the score? We are looking for the score. We are not looking for an easy life, right? We are looking for the score, my dear friend. And for that, I would recommend don't follow templates or try limiting the use of templates. It's always the hard things which will get you the score. But yeah, you can use the structure. There's a difference in a structure and a template. For example, a structure is something like, this lecture is about, and then you write something like that. This lecture sheds light on. Even that can be used as a structure. But if you write, this lecture sheds light on something very important from the lecture, something like that, then it's just a waste of words. And even the software understands that you're just wasting words, there is no content. And that's the only reason I say limit the use of templates. It will be better and it will actually make life easier in the long run. Hope I've explained myself. Thank you. Well, PT uses Australian English or American English? Ma'am, PT says only one thing. You can use all the accepted forms of English. All the naturally and national conventions of English can be used as far as you use one English in one task of PTE. That's what's written in the guideline. So you can use British if you're comfortable with British. If you're comfortable with American, use American. But again, I'm saying if you mix both in one question type, it can be a problem for the score in spelling. That's why just follow only one, British or American. All right. So I hope I answered the question. I'll just refresh the page one more time and then I'll see if I have more questions. Well, I think I've answered all the questions or most of the questions. And if there are any more questions to be answered, you can leave your questions in the comment section. Very soon I'll be answering all the questions, all right? So again, a quick recap. Retell lecture, just try to be as fluent as you can be. Don't take unnatural pauses like many times. Otherwise, believe me friends, it's going to impact your fluency score big time. Secondly, don't be very fast also in case you're going to use a template. Because the main thing is pronunciation and clarity. If the software doesn't understand what we say, obviously we can't get that score in content. So try to be clear. Don't shout. Don't be very loud. Don't be very soft also. Just be normal. Be natural. And coming to summarize spoken text, try to write a summary of approximately 65 to 70 words. I think that's the best recommended length for summarize spoken text. But in case you don't have content, if it's a very quick or very fast spoken lecture, then well, you can write around 53, 55, 56 words also. And in the other question, try to compensate, try to write more content. So at least the software also grades you that, okay, the person is making an effort to add the content, it's okay. I've got 2-3 questions also. What should be the maximum word length for SWT? And any tips for describe image? Well, Bhaumik, I'll cover describe image very soon, but not today. This lecture was only for Retell Lecture and Summarize Spoken Text. And Chaitanya, coming to your question, what is the maximum word length for SWT? So as per the PTE guideline, the maximum length is 75 words. If you write the 76th word, it is a penalty immediately. So try to finish it by maybe around 55, 50 words, because, or maximum maybe around 60 words. We can write up to 70. There's no problem with 70, but the only, or up to even 75. The only problem is that if the grammar is not taken care of, then obviously writing goes down. So it's a bit tedious to check the mistakes. That's the only thing. Thank you. Well, Ripa is asking, as we all know, we can get 5 points each from content, fluency and pronunciation. So how much main content should we cover? 30%, 20%, 25%. So obviously there is no like fixed guideline for that, Ripa. But as I said, clear-cut rule of content score is the more content you cover, the more score you get. So basically it's just a game of fitting content from the audio in the answer. As many words as you can fit, better for the score. Okay, hope it helped. Vivek is asking, if you are very confident in grammar without writing complicated sentences, are simple sentences good enough to get the score? Definitely, Vivek. Thank you for asking. Definitely with simple sentences, guaranteed you can get a 19 in the writing score. It's absolutely not compulsory to write complex or compound sentences, but once in a while if you mix and match, it's good. Even if you can't, it's okay, nothing to worry about. Thank you. Shakil is asking, could you please be clear, should we write numbers such as years 1998 if mentioned, or should we write in alphabetical or numeric? In Summarise Spoken Text, definitely if 1998 comes, write the numbers, sir, because if you write 1998, it's going to be 3 words, not required. Just write the number 1998, that's it, in numbers, numerical format. Thank you. Monzurul, how can I join PTE course as well as Nati from Bangladesh? To be honest, I'm weak in English. At this moment, what should I do? So for PTE and Nati, you'll be very happy to know that Aussizz Group provides online coaching as well. So those of you like you who are in Bangladesh or other countries like Dubai, UAE, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Thailand, wherever you are, you can definitely join the online coaching program. Even for Nati, we have the online coaching program, but I'm afraid the centers for Nati CCL are not in Bangladesh or India, unfortunately. Hopefully very soon Nati CCL could be starting centers, I don't know, but I hope that they start the centers, because definitely people in Bangladesh and India and Nepal and Sri Lanka also want to come over to Australia, and definitely they will start. But if you want to take the test like Nati, then unfortunately, sir, you will have to make a visit to Australia, maybe Melbourne or Sydney. You can't take it from Bangladesh. And as far as PT is concerned, I think maybe Kolkata would be closest to you in case you don't have a center in Bangladesh. But I think there is a center in Dhaka. I'm not sure about that, sir. You'll have to check it out on the Pearson website. But you can take the test in Bangladesh if there's a center, definitely. Thank you. And definitely you can join online coaching on PTE-Tutorials.com and CCLtutorials.com. If you don't have time, you can also download the app PTE Tutorials and CC Tutorials. That will be excellent for practice even in Bangladesh. That's excellent for practice. Janak Patel, how much retell affects to listening section, which means how many marks we get. So exactly how many marks we get is difficult to say, Janak, but you can assume you get 3 to 4 points out of 90, or maximum maybe 5 points out of 90 per question of Retell Lecture. Because sometimes we can get only 2 questions and the maximum is 5 questions in Retell Lecture, which means content score in listening comes a lot from Retell Lecture if something like that happens. So instead of being absolute, because PT is not a game of absolute scoring, it's a game of relative scoring. So it's very difficult to pinpoint and say 3 points. It's not like that. It depends. Every question can have different points also. So it's not fixed like that, Janak. Thank you. Amanpreet, but with the keywords and main ideas, yes sir, you can definitely write the keywords and the main ideas in correct English. There is no compulsion to use a template or a structure. You can just write it in correct English, that's all. For 65, please share priority task. Well, I think that's the last question I'll take for the video today. Well, see Monzurul, every task is important, whether the score is requirement is 65 or 79, but still I would highly recommend to work on tasks like speaking. All the tasks are important because speaking has to be a perfect 90. Without a 90, the test is wasted. Honestly speaking, it's not a good use of the test. So kindly be very accurate in read aloud, repeat sentence, describe image and retell lecture, very important. After that, focus on the tasks which are integrated. Integrated means 2 at the same time, like write from dictation, fill in the blanks, summarize spoken text, summarize written text. Whatever is integrated is definitely very important. At the same time, it doesn't mean that other tasks are not important. Everything is important. Last question, if I get less marks in both writing and listening, are SST and Retell responsible for that? Now the question you're asking is listening and writing. So yes, SST could be one of the reasons, but if speaking or listening is less, then Retell could definitely be one of the reasons, all right. All right, friends, so it's almost been 45 minutes since we started the lecture. It's been a fairly lengthy lecture. And now with that, on that note, I would like to bid adieu. I'll see you all very soon with another session on one of the topics covered in the actual exam. Hope the session was informative and I tried my best to cover all the doubts which you all had. I hope you all get a fantastic score of 90 each. Because when it comes to PT coaching, I think We try our best to help the test takers out there. I don't think there is any institute in the world which gives out so much free information as Aussizz Group does. And we genuinely want the test takers to get a score of 9 each or 90 each. And that's why whenever I say or whenever I share a post, I always write Malcolm Aussizz equal to 90, 90, 90, 90 because the only target should be 90 each. Thank you so much. See you all very soon with another exciting lecture. Thank you. Have a good day. All the best, all of you. Thank you.